What's up, Alita Army? Doc Ito here with an Alita update. The Doctor is in. Today, we're talking about, briefly, this article from Hiptoro, Alita Battle Angel 2 sequel Clarified by James Cameron, and the box office numbers with Alita getting a foreign update and getting closer to 405 million. But first, remember to vote on IMDb for the movie, and remember that your vote does not count, as this is a weighted average unless they think it's legitimate. This probably means you have to vote on multiple movies. I would suggest 20 or 30 at least, and also consider writing a user review for the movie. There's some thought this counts even more. We fell briefly to 7.5, but have been maintaining this 7.6 now for the last few days, which is great. For anyone that hasn't signed the petition, we're about 14,500 and moving up on the way to 15,000. And of course, remember to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of Doc Ito's free repairs. This is another article from Hiptoro about the Alita sequel. It seems these come every so often. I think the last one was maybe 2 to 4 weeks ago. And it's another one of these articles where they don't necessarily break any news. It's more of a regurgitation of old articles. So I'm not going to waste your time reading all of this since it isn't anything new. They do say things that we like, saying that the movie was a huge hit in the box office, and there's an expectation for a sequel because there's still a lot of ground to be covered from the original manga. And then they have the same quote about being cheeky to set up a sequel before you've been proven. This seems to be in all of these articles. And this Econotimes article, again, the same thing. James Cameron reveals plans for the sequel. That's not really true. It's the same old quotes about setting up a sequel before is cheeky. And they use these $403 million number, which is inaccurate. Essentially, they're just putting these articles out because I think there's so much demand for the sequel that people go and click on them. So they see that and then they keep doing it. It's not bad from an overall standpoint to get these articles because whenever someone searches Google News for Alita news, you're going to see these articles talking about how the sequel is being set up, how it's likely to happen, and it does create that perception and that media narrative of positive news for the sequel. So I don't necessarily have a problem with this. I'd much rather have these articles coming out than anything saying that it's not going to happen. Fun fact, Rodriguez revealed Cameron has sent him the notes of the sequel script, which is around 600 pages. I think they're a little bit over their skis here. Some of the interviews, like here from the Hollywood Reporter, says that he had 600-page documents of notes on Alita, which is what he used to make the script. This is Robert Rodriguez. Here's another article again. Cameron said he wouldn't send all 1,000 pages of notes. I'll send you like 600. Rodriguez quoted thinking that Cameron was joking, and then 600 pages of notes of the script arrived in the mail. Now, I have to find this Q&A. Raw Packet on Reddit says that the script itself was 600 pages and he had another 1,000 pages of production notes, and then he knew the studio wouldn't let him get away with a 3 to 4 hour movie, so he got it down to 120. I thought this was around 200. But anyways, this is why we're hoping for a director's cut. It would be amazing if they had the full movie. I do think there's something to it. I do think that they probably had a lot of the sequel and the trilogy and so forth written in these notes from James Cameron. So I do believe that there's something to it. There is a lot of the work already done for the sequels. But this little fact itself I don't think is necessarily accurate. The first movie made 403 million. Again, as you'll see, it's actually close to 405. So I always like articles being exact, and the fact that it isn't is a little worrisome, but overall, good news to have anything that's going to give us positive spin on Alita. And that's why I also think things like John Campea thinking that an Alita sequel is going to happen is also helpful. Now, I know John doesn't have a lot of fans in the comments, but the fact of the matter is he has a big reach, and even though he said some negative things about the movie, and I don't agree with his analysis of some of the box office numbers, I think having him thinking a sequel is going to happen and also overall supporting the movie, even though he has those negative criticisms, I think this is still helpful because we're not going to be able to change everyone's minds, but they kind of know what's going on behind the scenes. I do think he has connections in the movie industry, and if we're seeing a lot of articles like that other Forbes article saying that a sequel is likely happening, as well as these other smaller articles in the same direction saying that a sequel is very possible, these are all things that help drive a narrative that a sequel is on the way and that Alita is doing well, and for sure a sequel should be considered. I think his points that the movie can get a sequel even if it doesn't necessarily break even is probably true. I think the movie is going to break even, whether here in the theatrical release or beyond that with the Blu-ray sales. I just know Alita Army is going to rise up and fight for that Blu-ray, and we are going to have phenomenal numbers. But even if it doesn't reach full profitability, I do think you can get a sequel that will have more people go to the theaters, because we are going to spread the word. And when someone personally tells a friend that you should see this movie, that matters more than a reviewer saying, no, don't see it. And the movie is probably going to be made for less money than the first one, because the technology is already there, and Robert Rodriguez has the sets in his studio in Texas. So a lot of this has already been built up. So while I don't agree with John on everything, and I can't say I watch him very closely for his other analysis, just his Alita coverage, I do think that having him throwing his opinion behind a sequel is helpful. So there you have it. Some of you wanted my opinion at the end of the last video, and now there it is. From the numbers themselves, in the US, we're only making about 4,000. Like I said, we will see. Usually movies get confirmed until Thursdays, and then we'll have to see if it's going to still be up in how many theaters on Friday and going forward through the weekend. If you look at a place like Southern California, they do have showtimes going through Saturday and through next week. So it's not going to be pulled from theaters. It's still going to be in some theaters throughout next week. That means the movie is still going to make money. If we're tracking about 3,000 to 4,000 a day, that means another probably 50,000 over the next week, which would take us close to 86 million and would take us about 404.8 without anything from the foreign markets. From my foreign box office numbers not adding up video, you see we were at 318.731 at the last update on April 23rd. And if you do the math, we made about 318,000 foreign during this last week, which is actually pretty good, because in the US we probably only made about 70,000 in that same time frame. So if we're looking at a similar number for the next week, and if we get 150 in the foreign markets, that would give us close to the 200 we need to get to 405. So I wouldn't be surprised if by this time next week we're right at the 405 number. Either way, it doesn't make a huge difference, because when you're this close, people are always going to round up to 405 million. So we've done it. We've crossed 405. This was not a $200 million flop like was predicted. So strong work, everybody. And we will continue to support Alita. And once the Blu-ray and everything are available, we will support it from that standpoint too. We do not stand by in the presence of evil. We will fight for Alita. We will fight for our sequel. So remember to like and subscribe. Continue to support Alita. God bless. Y'all have a great day. And we'll talk to you soon. Doc out.